Hi friends, this is Leela. Welcome to my channel Leela WebDev. In the previous video, we have seen how to position the grid items using grid row start, grid row column, grid row and grid column start, grid column and grid row, grid column, grid area. So like the CSS properties we have seen. Now, not only we can position the grid item in a particular area, we can also span across the columns or across the rows also, the grid items. How we can do it? Let's try to see it. For example, let's say that I have removed all these things, grid rows and all those things. Now, for example, orange. So this is the orange is there, right? I want to place this orange in the 5 and 6. So that means 5 and 6 grid items should be occupied with the orange. Then what I need to do? So for this first one, so here I can write grid hyphen row. It should be 1 2 by 3. Okay, and if I place it, so it will come down. And here grid hyphen column, it should be something like 2 by 4. So instead of having 2 by 3, we can have it 2 by 4. So now if you try to see here, when you mention this one as 2 by 4, so 2 means, so here column 2 to 4, if you mention it here, automatically the brown has been shifted to the down, and these grid items are called as an explicit grid. Okay, so this is called as an implicit grid. So this is an implicit grid. So what is this implicit grid, explicit grid? We'll try to learn it afterwards. And for this grid area, for this grid item, grid row, we haven't mentioned any width because of that reason. So this is not taking any width. Normally we have mentioned 2, 1 FR, right? Or otherwise what I can say, so here we are having 500 pixel. Let's remove this 500 pixel and I will try to apply 150 pixel each one height. Now if you try to see, this brown is not having 150 pixel. Why? Because we have mentioned 2 rows only. Each one should be having around 150 pixels. So let's mention 2 for 200 pixel. But now what has happened here? So this one is an implicit grid. So now we have extended this orange across to the 2 columns. Not only like this, we can also extend this one across the row also. For example, this green item, I need to extend it with the 2 and blue. So for green item is second item. So here I can go to the second item and I can mention grid hyphen row is equal to 1 by 3. Okay, automatically it will be shifted and this blue is shifted here. See? And now what I can do here, so grid hyphen column, and this should be something around 1 by 2. So this is common. Okay. And now this pink, if you try to see this pink fourth item, let's say that I place this one. So grid hyphen column, it should be around 3 by 4. Okay, explicitly I am mentioning this should be a 3 by 4. And grid hyphen row also, I am mentioning it should be 1 by 2. So the same place I am mentioning this one. Now this violet, what I want to do is this violet, I want to stretch it across these 2 items. So that means for this item 3, what I can mention, so grid hyphen row should be 1 by 2 and across the columns, right? Grid hyphen column, I can mention it as 2 by 4. Now if you try to see here, see if you observe here, so this violet, okay, so this violet has been across this pink thing, okay, across the pink thing. So now for example, let's say that, so now this violet is there behind the pink. For example, let's say that if you want this violet to come after the pink means, so what I need to do, so what I need to do is for this item 3, we need to apply z index. So z index of 1. So you need to have z index more. So now this pink is behind this violet. So like this, we can use the z index to place the overlapping grid items. So you can place grid items, one grid item over the other grid item also you can place it. So it's not a problem. So just I am trying to mention you. So for example, let's say this orange is there, right? I want to across orange 1. So 2 to 3 is there. So 1 by 4. Let's try to make it as 1 by 4. And this one is placing it like this, right? So now, for example, let's say that I have removed this grid row, okay, and I want to place it across 1 by 4. See, now when I don't have any grid row, so row is not necessary mandatory for me. So row is not mandatory for me. But I need to take 1 to 4. So that means the whole grid I need to take it. But here there is no space left behind. So because of that reason, so it has took a new row. So if you want to mention a particular row means automatically it will go to the top only, and it will go behind that over the grid items will be overlapping one and each other. If you don't mention this grid row means automatically the grid automatically adjusts it so to give an implicit grid. So this is the one thing you need to understand it. For example, let's say that I have so here you know that you are having 4 columns, 4 line column lines, and if I mention 4 by 5, 1 by 5, then what will happen here? And another new column will be created. If you try to observe carefully, and another new column will be created. Why? Because 1 by 5 we have given it, and that column we don't have any width for that one. Because of that reason, so empty column with no width has been created. So for example, let's say that 1 by 4. Okay, so this is the thing, right? So otherwise, so let's try to remove this one all. So let's go back to the same thing. So this is the thing we are having it, right? So you know that, so this orange 2 by 4 and this one unit needs to be spread across the 2 grid items, means instead of mentioning this one, you can also mention as another scenario that is nothing but span 2. So start from this one and extend to span 2. Okay, like this also you can say it. For example, if you want to extract across this means you can say span 3, then a new column will be created automatically. So here span 2. Span 2 means 2 columns it should be zipped. For example, let's say that brown is there, 6th item. So for here, I can mention that grid column, okay, grid column, it should be start from 1 and it should take the 3 rows, one span 3. So now if you try to see here, a new row has been taken. Why? Because we haven't mentioned any particular row it should take. So a new row has been taken. Span 3 means it took the 3 grid items. So this is how you can mention it, span 3. This is a spanning across the grid items, this one. And for this blue also, if you want to mention, you can also mention, not only for this one, you can also mention it with the row also. So grid hyphen row, and here I want to mention it something around 1 2 3 by span 2. You can mention it as 3 by span 2. So then also it will take the 3 things. So 3 by span 2 means, okay, so we don't have anything here, right? So for example, let's try to mention it as for the green item. So green means second, right? So here grid 1 to span 2, I can mention it as span 2. So now if you try to mention it here, see the span 2, it's working in the same scenario. So like this you can mention it. Like this we can mention it, not only for the row, we can also mention for this one. For example, let's say that we are having this brown, right? Span 3 we have mentioned it. For example, if I mention it as span 4, a new row with new column will be created. Why? Because already we are having only 3 columns. But we have created an extra thing. We don't know the end of the grid. So if you don't know the end of the grid and you must mention this one to the end of the grid, means you can use another scenario that is nothing but -1. So if you mention it as -1, then what it will happen? So automatically the grid will extend. The grid item will extend to the end of the grid. So this is the thing. So for example, let's say that orange is there, first one. So item 1, and you want to extend it to the end, means you can mention it as -1. So then also one and the same only. So these are the different ways how we can span the grid items across the grid. So this looks like somewhat confusing, but this is very useful. So this is how we can span the grid items across the grid things. What we have seen, so span 2 we have seen, or otherwise 1 by 2, 2 by 4 also we have seen it. And whenever the grid items are overlapping, you can use the Z index to make it to make the grid item to come above the grid items. And also we have seen the -1 usage of -1. So if you are having at the end of this one, means so you can mention it -1. Not only for this one, you can also mention it for the rows also. -2 means less than, like that it will take. So like this. So -1 means at the end. So this is also one handy method. So if you don't know the end of the grid line number, so you can mention -1 means it will expand to the end of the grid. So these are the different types how we can span the grid items across the grid thing. Hope you understood about this one. If you have any doubts or any suggestions, please post the comments below to this video. And if you like this video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you.